So, you have decided to work for yourself. From the outside, it looks like freedom with a laptop attached. No manager watching the clock, no permission needed for a Tuesday afternoon off, and no fixed ceiling on what you can earn. You choose the clients, set the prices, build something with your own name on it, and keep the upside when the work goes well. That picture is real. It is also incomplete. Because the moment you become self-employed, the job you wanted is joined by several jobs you may not have noticed. Salesperson, accountant, debt collector, customer support desk, scheduler, and emergency fund. A client may see 2 hours of finished work. You may have spent 10 hours finding the lead, writing the proposal, revising the project, chasing the invoice, and preparing for tax. And in the United States, self-employment tax alone is 15.3% of net earnings, covering Social Security and Medicare. That does not mean 15.3% of every dollar disappears in exactly the same way, but it does mean the amount arriving in your bank account is not the same as the amount you can safely spend. Still, millions make this model work. More than 9 million Americans were classified as unincorporated self-employed workers in 2025, proving that independence is not a fantasy. So what separates genuine freedom from a job with more risk, more paperwork, and no paid vacation? The answer is hidden in cash flow, pricing, time, taxes, and how long your business can survive before uncertainty becomes stability. And stability begins with understanding what self-employment is actually selling. You are not merely selling hours. You are building a small system that converts a skill, product, audience, or piece of equipment into revenue without passing all of the value through an employer first. That is the attraction. A bookkeeper can serve several companies instead of one department. A photographer can charge for the shoot, editing, licensing, and prints. A tradesperson can eventually earn not only from personal labor, but from a team, a reputation, and repeat customers. The positive economics come from control. You may choose a better-paying market, refuse low-value work, redesign an inefficient service, or raise prices after your results improve. An employee can become more productive and still receive the same salary. A self-employed person may capture more of that improvement, provided customers are willing to pay for it. But control must be purchased before it can be enjoyed. For a low-cost service business, the visible entry cost might be a laptop, tools, a website, professional insurance, permits, or software. A physical business may add premises, inventory, equipment, utilities, staff, and a much larger reserve. The U.S. Small Business Administration recommends separating one-time startup expenses from recurring monthly costs because both determine how much capital is needed and when the business can break even. There is also a cost chain. Buying equipment may require financing. Financing creates a monthly payment. That payment continues during a quiet month. A quiet month reduces the cash available for marketing, and weaker marketing can make the next month quiet as well. The first expense is the machine. The larger risk is the obligation attached to it. A service business can appear almost free because no shopfront is required. Yet its main starting cost is often hidden inside time. You spend evenings building a portfolio, learning software, writing proposals, meeting prospects, and producing samples before enough paid work exists to replace a salary. The business may open on Monday, but the economic engine can take months to warm up. That engine is not revenue alone. It is the amount left from each sale, multiplied by how many profitable sales you can complete, multiplied again by how often customers return. That multiplication matters because each lever has a limit. You can improve the amount left from a sale by pricing accurately or reducing waste. You can increase capacity by using templates, better tools, or a narrower service. And you can improve repeat business by solving a problem that returns every month. The strongest model usually combines all three. Raising revenue through endless personal hours may create income, but it also creates a ceiling. Improving margin, efficiency, and retention allows the same working week to produce a stronger result. Self-employment becomes economically valuable when effort stops being the only thing available for sale. Consider a simplified planning example. A freelance designer invoices $1,200 for a project. Suppose $50 goes to payment charges, $100 represents the project share of software, insurance, and marketing, and $300 is moved into a tax account. Those figures are hypothetical, not a universal industry average. The remaining $750 must pay the owner, support the business, and cover the unpaid gaps between projects. At 5 similar projects per month, the designer collects $6,000. After $750 of allocated operating costs and a $1,500 planning reserve for taxes, $3,750 remains before personal health coverage, retirement saving, or reinvestment. That is why comparing a $6,000 business month with a $6,000 salary is misleading. One is gross business income. The other is compensation inside a system where taxes and some benefits may already be handled differently. For U.S. sole proprietors, business income and expenses are generally reported on Schedule C, while estimated payments may be required because clients usually do not withhold taxes from independent contractor payments. The IRS describes the system as pay-as-you-go and bases business profit on income minus allowable business expenses. Now meet Maya, a fictional composite built to show how a successful transition can work. Maya is a marketing writer earning a steady salary. She does not resign after receiving one enthusiastic email from a potential client. She begins with 2 evenings a week, spends $1,800 on equipment, a basic website, contracts, and professional help, then keeps her personal emergency savings separate from the business. Her first month produces only $900. She has worked far more than the invoice suggests, because most of her time disappeared into prospecting and revisions. Instead of concluding that self-employment is impossible, she changes the offer. She narrows her service, defines the number of revisions, charges a deposit, and sells ongoing monthly work rather than isolated assignments. 6 months later, 4 clients each pay approximately $1,600 per month. Her business collects $6,400. In this hypothetical month, operating costs absorb $700. She places $1,500 into tax savings, and roughly $4,200 remains for owner pay and longer-term reserves. More importantly, most of next month's work is already booked. The first sign of success is not the larger invoice. It is the morning Maya opens her calendar and sees that she no longer begins every month at 0. That predictability creates non-financial value as well. She can arrange deep work around the hours when she concentrates best. She can choose an industry in which she wants to build expertise. Every completed project strengthens her portfolio, referrals, and negotiating position. None of those benefits should be assigned a fake dollar value, but each can improve future income or reduce the effort required to find the next customer. This is why reasonable people accept the difficult beginning. They are not simply chasing the right to work in comfortable clothes. They are trying to convert temporary uncertainty into greater control over income, time, clients, and future opportunities. If you enjoy seeing how ordinary decisions change once the full calculation is visible, subscribe to Life Cost Decoder. The headline number starts the story. The system underneath it determines the outcome. Maya's example works because she develops a marketable offer, protects cash, and improves her pricing. But even those advantages are not the variable that ultimately keeps a self-employed business alive. That variable is the quality of the revenue, how reliably it repeats, how quickly it arrives, and how much remains after every obligation has already claimed its share. That quality of revenue matters because self-employment is not defeated by one ordinary slow week. It is defeated when money arrives too irregularly to meet obligations that arrive on schedule. 2 businesses can collect the same $6,000 in a month and have completely different economics. One begins with 4 recurring clients, receives deposits before work starts, and is paid within days. The other depends on one large project, begins without a deposit, and waits 6 weeks after delivery. Their revenue is identical on paper. Their ability to pay rent, software, insurance, taxes, and themselves is not. This is the hidden variable: dependable cash flow. Profit tells you whether the work is worthwhile. Cash flow tells you whether the business survives long enough to receive that profit. This is not merely a freelancer's inconvenience. In the Federal Reserve's 2024 survey of small employer firms, 51% reported uneven cash flow as a financial challenge. The paperwork may record a sale immediately, while the bank account experiences it much later. For Maya, the difference appears in ordinary decisions. She invoices on the same day each month, uses written payment terms, limits revisions, and avoids allowing one client to dominate her calendar. None of these choices looks as exciting as winning a major contract. Together, however, they reduce the distance between doing the work and possessing usable money. Small operational changes can create surprisingly large results. Suppose a project priced at $1,600 normally takes 20 hours. Poor briefing, unclear revisions, and scattered communications stretch it to 30 hours. The invoice has not changed, but the effective revenue per working hour has fallen from $80 to about $53 before expenses and taxes. A better process does not merely make the day calmer, it restores the economics of the service. Success can then begin to compound. A satisfied client renews. Renewal reduces the unpaid time spent searching for replacement work. A clearer offer makes proposals faster. Experience shortens delivery time. A larger reserve allows Maya to refuse work with weak terms instead of accepting it from panic. Each improvement strengthens the next one. And sometimes the smaller-looking opportunity is the stronger one. Consider another fictional comparison. Daniel receives a $10,000 project from one client. Priya has 5 clients paying $1,700 each, collecting $8,500 altogether. Daniel appears ahead. But if his client leaves, his next month begins at 0. If one of Priya's clients leaves, most of her revenue remains. Daniel has more revenue today. Priya may have the more durable business. A financially strong self-employed model usually has controlled fixed costs, repeat demand, clear margins, timely payment, and enough cash to absorb a weak month. A weak model often has impressive sales but thin margins, one dominant customer, expensive debt, and no reserve. The difference is not how busy the owner looks. It is how many things must go perfectly for the owner to be paid. Return to Maya. In an optimistic but credible hypothetical year, her setup costs remain $1,800. Monthly revenue stabilizes at $6,400. Operating expenses average $700, and she reserves $1,500 for taxes. About $4,200 remains for owner pay and additional saving. If she compares that with the $3,500 monthly take-home income she previously received as an employee, the apparent improvement is $700 per month. At that rate, the original $1,800 setup cost is recovered in a little under 3 months. But that calculation is incomplete unless she also accounts for benefits she must now fund herself, unpaid leave, and the income risk transferred from employer to owner. If those items absorb another $500 per month, the genuine improvement falls to roughly $200. Break-even then takes 9 months, not 3. That is the final calculation. True improvement is not business revenue minus business expenses. It is the owner's usable income after business costs, tax provision, replacement benefits, and risk reserves, compared with the financial position left behind. The more realistic version is less tidy. One client pays late. Software and insurance cost more than expected. Maya spends 2 months replacing lost work. She reduces personal withdrawals, uses part of her business reserve, and reaches the end of the year ahead of her old position, but by hundreds rather than thousands of dollars. The business has still created value, stronger contacts, more control, and a platform that may improve next year. It simply has not transformed her finances on schedule. A model capable of creating independence also depends on conditions that can weaken. The first major mistake is confusing a full calendar with a profitable business. Owners underprice work, accept unlimited revisions, and then solve the resulting shortage by working longer. Revenue rises, but earnings per hour fall. They have not escaped a job. They have created an employer who never tells them to stop. The second mistake is treating the best month as the normal month. A strong invoice arrives, spending rises, and tax money or reserves begin to look temporarily available. When demand returns to normal, fixed commitments remain. The business did not fail because sales disappeared. It became fragile because one exceptional month was converted into permanent living costs. Now combine several pressures. Maya loses her largest client, another invoice is delayed, and her laptop fails in the same month. If she has diversified revenue and 3 months of essential reserves, the event is painful but manageable. Without those protections, she may borrow at an expensive rate or accept badly priced work, creating future problems to solve today's shortage. The success condition that failed was not talent, it was runway. So, when does self-employment create genuine economic value? It works when a useful skill meets paying demand, prices cover both visible and invisible labor, revenue is not dangerously concentrated, cash arrives before obligations drain the account, and the owner remains in business long enough for reputation, efficiency, and repeat customers to compound. It becomes financially weak when gross revenue is mistaken for income, volatility is ignored, or independence is financed with debt and exhaustion. The laptop, flexible afternoon, and absence of a manager from the opening were not false promises. They were the visible rewards of a system operating successfully. Freedom is not created merely by leaving employment. It is created when the business can pay for uncertainty without selling every waking hour. Self-employment gives you control of the ceiling, but it also makes you responsible for the floor. Would you choose that trade after seeing the complete calculation? Subscribe to Life Cost Decoder for the hidden economics behind the decisions that shape ordinary adult life.